A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus revealed himself again to his disciples at the Sea of Tiberias. He revealed himself in this way. Together were Simon Peter, Thomas called Didymus, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, Zebedee's sons, and two others of his disciples. Simon Peter said to them, "I am going fishing." They said to him, "We also will come with you." So they went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. When it was already dawn, Jesus was standing on the shore, but the disciples did not realize that it was Jesus. Jesus said to them, "Children, have you caught anything to eat?" They answered him, "No." So he said to them, "Cast the net over the right side of the boat, and you will find something." So they cast it, and were not able to pull it in because of the number of fish. So the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he tucked in his garment, for he was lightly clad, and jumped into the sea. The other disciples came in the boat, for they were not far from shore, only about 100 yards, dragging the net with the fish. When they climbed out on shore, they saw a charcoal fire with fish on it and bread. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish you just caught." So Simon Peter went over and dragged the net ashore, full of 153 large fish. Even though there were so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, "Come, have breakfast." And none of the disciples dared to ask him, "Who are you?" because they realized it was the Lord. Jesus came over and took the bread, gave it to them, and in like manner the fish. This was now the third time Jesus was revealed to his disciples after being raised from the dead. Friends, brothers and sisters, the Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Psychology tells us that when we lose somebody and when we grieve over such a loss, or maybe when we feel so depressed or when we experience depression, normally psychology tells us normally a person goes back to the thing that he or she truly loves. For example, at the death of your husband, maybe you will say, "Now, I'd rather go back baking. I'd rather go back gardening. I'd rather go back maybe cooking or sewing." Go back to the thing that you truly love. Because depression needs love. And therefore, a person who is depressed would always have the tendency to go back to the things he or she truly loves. Just imagine the fishermen, Peter, Andrew, James, and John. They loved fishing. That was their career path, so to speak. When Jesus called them to become his disciples, they started a new career path, so to speak. Theirs is now a vocation, and no longer simply an earning for a living or working for a living. More than that, it is now about vocation. Jesus would say to Peter in a very poetic way, "From now on, you will be fishing men." you will be catching men. That means to say that these were fishermen and they truly loved fishing. Now that they are so depressed because they have lost somebody they truly love, then they go back to the things they also truly love. They go back to fishing. And so when Peter said, I'm going fishing, then the rest said, we also will come with you. Maybe they have lost their Messiah, their Master, their Teacher, their Lord. And now, because of their frustration and depression, they would go back to fishing. And we would just like to revert to our old way of life. Oftentimes, when we are called by the Lord to a higher calling, to a higher vocation, and oftentimes when we get frustrated, we feel we just have to go back and to revert to our old lifestyle. Like the Lord is calling you to a holy life, to a life of conversion, to a life of repentance, to a life of service. Now, because of your frustration, perhaps, because of your depression, or maybe because of some disappointments, maybe you would just say, I'd better go back to my sinful lifestyle. Anyway, there is no more hope in my case. So notice that when we are so attached to something, then in our depression, we go back to that attachment. And yet, from a healthier perspective, people who go through a lot of depression and anxiety and frustration would revert to the things they truly love. They love sewing, they love cooking, they love farming, they love gardening, they love driving, for example, or they love carpentry. Then they go back to the love of their life. And that is one very beautiful experience of life that these fishermen also experienced. They were frustrated, they were disappointed, and now they said, well, it's better to go back to our old way of life. Let us go back fishing. And in their frustration, Jesus appeared to them. Notice this. This is very important for us. That in our anxiety, in our depression, in our frustration, Jesus comes to us. At a point of crisis, Christ is there. Christ is. And now, notice that Jesus appeared to them right there where they needed Him most. Right when they needed Him. They were frustrated, they were disappointed, they felt lost, they had no more sense of direction. They just decided to become fishermen. After becoming followers of Jesus for the longest time, so to speak, now they just wanted to become fishermen. And Jesus comes back to them. And Jesus tells them, hey, children, have you caught anything to eat? And they answered Him, no. So He said to them, cast the net over the right side of the boat, and you will find something. What is this experience all about? Remember, this is at the Sea of Tiberias. Earlier on, at the Sea of Gennesaret, well, this is just the same Lake of Galilee, but the point of reference would be different. Like you are in Tiberias, so it's called the Sea of Tiberias. And you are in Gennesaret, then you just call it the Sea of Gennesaret. But that is just the same Lake of Galilee. Now, remember that in the Lake of Galilee, in that point there, it was there that Jesus called Peter for the very first time. And what was the circumstance? He caught nothing. He caught nothing. And the Lord told him, cast your net into the deep. And then Peter followed him. All night long, I caught nothing, but on your word or at your word, I'm going to cast my net. And lo and behold, Peter was able to catch a lot of fish. And that was the foundational encounter, the foundational experience of Peter with Jesus. From that time onward, Peter would no longer forget that beautiful experience. The way Jesus called him was through a large catch of fish. And now, fast forward, after the resurrection, Jesus comes to him all over again. And what are the circumstances? Almost the same circumstances. They caught nothing. You know, in our frustration, we are clutching at straw. In our frustration, we hold on to nothing. We are helpless, we are paralyzed, we are depressed. And it seems that there's no more future in store for all of us. And yet, Jesus wants to tell us, I am here. In your nothingness, I am here. And because they were able to get a large catch of fish, immediately it was John the beloved disciple, who connected it to the first instance wherein they experienced the first call of Jesus to them, the call to discipleship. They caught nothing, and now Jesus would say to them, follow me. Now, fast forward, after the resurrection, they caught nothing. And Jesus comes to them, and Jesus tells them, cast the net over the right side of the boat, and you will find something. So they cast it, and were not able to pull it in because of the number of fish. And immediately, John, the beloved disciple, said to Peter, it is the Lord. It is the Lord. Why was John able to say, it is the Lord? Because of that memory, because of the beautiful encounter before that Peter had. Peter and Andrew, James and John, they all had that kind of experience. Beautiful. That means to say that this moment of frustration is now being turned upside down by Jesus. Jesus tells them, in your nothingness, in your prostration, I am here. And so we need also to open our eyes and say, it is the Lord. I call this patterns of grace in our life. Sometimes there is a big event, a memorable event, a deep spiritual encounter that we experience with Jesus. And then through the years, we forget that beautiful encounter. Through the years, we forget that foundational encounter that we have, be it a miracle, be it an answered prayer, maybe a healing experience, or whatever blessing you receive. Okay, it's a big event for you, it's a big thing for you, but through the years, you forget all about it. And you take your faith for granted. But now, Jesus would like to make His presence felt all over again. And Jesus wants you to go back to that experience. And then you will say, wow, here we go again. Patterns of grace. Patterns of grace. And all of us have that kind of pattern of grace. Maybe you can look at the Julys of your life, the Decembers of your life, the Aprils of your life. What are the patterns of grace? In my case, just to give you a personal testimony, I decided to establish a new community, a pious association, and it's called the Missionaries of the Beatitudes, and it was founded on December 8, 2007, the solemnity of the Immaculate Conception. And I was assigned to a certain island in Mindoro, Lubang Island, Occidental Mindoro, and there we were able to purchase a small lot, and I noticed there was a chapel somewhere near, and I asked the owner of the lot, who is the patron saint of that chapel? And he told me, Immaculate Conception. And then my bishop protector told me, you better go back to Manila. Better go back to Manila because there, it is there that you have people who know you. And it is also there that you have theological schools and schools of philosophy, and so you can have your formation house there. So I came here to Manila. And then when finally I was able to purchase a lot through the help of a sponsor, I asked my neighbor, to what parish do we belong? And my neighbor told me, Immaculate Conception. And then I came here to the Diocese of Cubao. And the Diocese of Cubao is under the patronage of the Immaculate Conception. You see, these are patterns of grace in my life. And when I shared this story with my bishop protector, the bishop protector told me, and he was smiling, he was laughing, and he told me, well, in my case, it was St. Joseph. All the parishes I was assigned to were all St. Joseph. St. Joseph the worker, St. Joseph the husband of Mary. It's all always about St. Joseph. And therefore, there is that kind of connectedness. All you have to do is to connect the dots. And you will see the pattern of grace. And then he told me, look at me, I am now a bishop of San Jose, Occidental Mindoro. It's also St. Joseph. Now we need to discover or maybe revisit the patterns of grace that we have in our life. Jesus appeared to Peter for the very first time at the lake of Gennesaret, and when he caught nothing, no fish at all, and when he spent the whole night catching, but there was no fish. And now, fast forward, after the resurrection, Jesus came to the Sea of Tiberias, and Jesus told him, children, have you caught anything to eat? And they said, no. Cast the net over the right side of the boat, and you will find something. And there, they were able to realize it was the Lord. Patterns of grace. Beautiful. So two things very important to consider. Number one, in our frustration, we go back to the love of our life. And yet, in our frustration, God comes to us. Secondly, patterns of grace. There are moments wherein we become lax, when we become almost disappointed or almost faithless, when our faith is shaken. And Jesus comes from time to time, and He makes His presence felt. Here I am. And then we will always say, it is the Lord. So we come back, we come from God, and we go back to God. And this is always the pattern for all of us. We come from God, we go back to God. Peter was called by Jesus. Again, now, Jesus would say, come on, Peter, follow me. Notice that Jesus calls us from time to time. It is just a matter of saying, it is the Lord. It is just a matter of responding to that call here and now.